Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bartel's Money Talk. My guest today, you will not believe this. You will not believe her story. We were so impressed with her story. I almost wanted to just send a press conference. Go find her and go get her. You have to listen to this episode. It's impactful. It will change your life. It will even change your way of thinking about how you manage your finances. So today, I would like to welcome Miss Makeda to Bartel's Money Talk. So if you can introduce yourself and give us all the nuts and grits.
Oh, thank you so much, Teresa. That was quite the introduction. Hi, I am Makeda. I'm sorry, I didn't know if you can hear me here. Yeah, I'm Makeda. I am very excited to be here today. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Seed in Society, which is my company, and also it's a podcast, it's a company, it's a movement. It's really talking about how to reclaim ownership and reclaim freedom and asset-based wealth. I talk a lot about how I made $1 million in tech sales in the past 4 years and how I use that to now own a 10-acre homestead mortgage free. And I did that by not succumbing to lifestyle creep and getting a newer car and the biggest house on the block, but by making sure I had ownership so that I can opt out and am on track to retire before 40.
Well, may I ask how old you are now?
Yeah, I'm 33.
So that's only 7 years away. And because a lot of the youngsters, they have no idea what a homestead is. What is that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I do start to take it for granted now as I've started to enter into this movement, and I'm still building. I like to be very clear about that. I work in tech still. That's my 9 to 5, and then the rest of my life is 2 kids at home, no daycare. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and then our homestead. What we're doing is reclaiming our land so we can grow 100% of our food. And a homestead is really having a place where you grow your food, you control kind of your resources, your water, your electricity if it came to it. It's really just making sure that you are a lot more self-sufficient, one with the land, but we also like Wi-Fi and AI over here. So I talk a lot about how to use digital to also influence your homestead or your self-sufficiency.
Well, guess what? I am asking, and everyone else, what in the world made you decide to do this, especially when you have the opportunity to make millions of dollars? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, well, the cool thing is that I do work from home. I've worked from home since before the pandemic. The story really starts with it was 2019. I was pregnant with my first child. Me and my husband didn't really know what we were going to do. He owns a recording studio in Philly, and he's taking session after session, and we were in an Airbnb. Like, we needed to figure it out. And I was a teacher in a previous life, and I kind of did everything right? Like, I got my degree despite being on my own since 16. I got my GED at 16, but I went to an R1 research institution, Temple University, got my degree in African American Studies and Sociology. And most people are like, well, what are you going to do with that? And I was like, well, if you're still trying to figure out how to get a job, you don't really know the point. But I learned it the hard way. I should have been thinking about that a little bit more during undergrad. Fast forward, COVID hits. We were living in Houston, and we got this opportunity to get this land out here. My father-in-law lives less than a mile from us, and my mother-in-law helped us out. She cashed out her 401k with the idea that we would buy this complete fixer-upper. Like, it was unlivable when we moved here, and we were able to put in sweat equity. My father-in-law is a licensed contractor, and my husband built this house from the ground up. Now it is a beautiful 4-bedroom, 3 full bathroom home on 10 acres, and we paid, and then I had my great year in tech sales because my mindset from the start was, how am I make sure that I honor this gift that I've never heard of before and make sure I get her money back and some. So I worked, and we were able to pay it off in cash. This is where we are. That is the very long, short version of a long story.
Well,
and in that time, I also had my son, who was 2, got my MBA, and a master's certificate in data science.
Wow, yeah, because you said tech sales. So what do you do? Sell software?
Yeah, I sell software. So I sell software. Now I'm in GovTech, so I
Mhm.
sell software in the public sector space. Previous to that as well, in the higher education space.
Okay, well, I would like to say hats off to your mother-in-law that she had that kind of faith to cancel her 401k because I would have been like, boo, you're going to have to figure out another way. But
Yeah,
she did it and you were able to pay her back.
absolutely.
Okay, so like at your young age, okay, my grandmother, well, I was raised by my grandmother and she really barely even made me wash dishes, okay? I
Yeah.
need to know, how do you know how to live off the land? I'm trying to go to the grocery store and I don't want to mess with a live chicken and I don't want to milk a cow.
No, and that's very real. I'll be on, like, I've been a vegetarian for over 25 years.
Uh-huh.
So we call ourselves vegan adjacent because my children are very proud carnivores. They are like, give me some chicken. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, we're not handling it here, but a mile down the street, their pop, my father-in-law has goats and he has like 30 chickens and it's definitely more farm like there and they love it. And that honestly is what informed this decision. It was, we are from Philly.
Mm-hmm.
I love my city. I've been
Mm-hmm.
told I rep Philly like a gang sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
However, I didn't want that for my children. I wanted a place where they can be outside, they can run around. And you can do that in Philly too in certain places, but you have to be a lot more intentional
Mm-hmm.
versus here where that is like a given.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like I said, I'm on 10 acres. My property taxes are $500 a year. And
Whoa,
when
that's
I can't,
nice.
and it's unrestricted land. I tell people about that all the time. Like when you're looking at land, do you need to get a permit to put a door in your own house? Do you have an HOA who can take your home away at any given time for any reason within their bylaws? Do you actually own your land? As much as we can in America, right? Because there's eminent
Mm-hmm.
domain.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
just paying attention to that. And with homesteading, it's just been a wonderful community online. I just went to the Homestead Festival. I do the Confident Gardener mentorship where there's people who have been homesteading for decades and who teach you how to make sure you can grow your food organically without pesticides, without, and that was a big reason we decided to homestead as well. Like organic produce is not cheap. And this is coming from someone who makes over six figures for the last 4 years. And I can't imagine how most people in
Mm-hmm.
America are doing it because even for us, it's a stretch. So that's also where Seed and Society came from, where it's like we empower people to make seven figures, eight figures, because
Mm-hmm.
my audience is a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who already make six figures and know that it's not enough.
It's not. And see, like when I looked at you and I studied your profile and all of that, in my mind, I would judge you and say, okay, well, she's doing this because evidently she thinks something is going to happen. So she's trying to create her life now to where if something does happen, she doesn't have to depend on the grocery store to get what she needs.
Well,
Does that
that's
have
true as
anything
well.
to do with it in the back of
That
your
is
mind?
100% true as well. So that means it's coming across as well. We definitely, like, everybody was in the pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
when the pandemic hit, we were in Houston, which is it's the third largest city in America. It is one of the worst places you wanted to be during the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic when shelves were empty and roads were shut
Yes.
down and you couldn't really have any kind of autonomy or control over your lives. So 1000%, I would not lie, be like, no, that's not what it is. The difference is that this isn't out of fear. This is out of preparation. It is about being prepared. If nothing happens, great. We
Mm-hmm.
still save all of this money on our grocery expenses. We know where our food comes from. We know what exactly is going into our children's body. We know what they're learning because I'm going to start homeschooling this year. We just know we're controlling our little slice of paradise and what it is that is within our control. However, if something does occur and you don't have access to the supermarket, or just like we had where you can only buy 1 dozen
Oh,
eggs, or
yes.
during
Mm-hmm.
pandemic where you could only buy one chicken, as I've heard from people, this is where you're making sure that that is not your reality.
That is amazing. But how did you learn how to cultivate your land so that you could start surviving off off of it?
Yeah, so that's what I said. I really have been blessed to have found a community. I am not a pioneer in this space from I'm the first person to do it. What this really is a return. This is what our ancestors have done. This is what human civilization has done for thousands of years. It is only more recently that people forgot, and it's by design, right? Like, they keep you on the hamster wheel. You go to work 9 to 5, you then go and spend all your money at the supermarket. You just keep going, and you don't think about it until something disrupts that, and you realize slowly but surely you've been completely dependent on a system that isn't always it doesn't always have your back. And especially as Black women, and we're sitting here, it's like I feel, are intimately aware of a system that can always be a double-edged sword. And once I had children, it just became imperative to me to not be like, hey, let me just see what happens. It's how can I make sure that they're prepared, that they know how to grow their food, that they know where food comes from. Because I used to be a teacher, and I had 6th graders who didn't know that eggs came from chickens. And when I taught, and I was a science teacher, when I taught the water cycle, and I started with where does water come from 4th graders, they said Walmart. So it's super important for me to make sure that my children understand like the very basic things that keep them alive, and also control that for themselves.
Okay. And so, do you mind just sharing just a little bit of your story as to why you were on your own at 16?
Yeah, so similar to you, I grew up with my grandfather. My mom, she had me at 20. She had my brother at like 16, and she didn't have a lot of support. I lost my mom last year, and that was really hard. But once I had children, I had so much more grace for her. I had so much more understanding of how hard it is. I am super blessed, even within a lot of women, because I have a very supportive, active partner. Like, in a lot of terms, he's kind of the default parent. Like, he's at the gym with the kids right now. He's who takes them to camp. He's the reason why we didn't need to send them to daycare. While he's also, all day he was outside with his dad, just like building our garden and laying down stuff, like doing it all. And even then, while we have so many financial resources, some family resources, because we are still a pretty tiny family, and I have a very supportive partner, it's still hard. It's still so hard. So I can't imagine my mom when she was that young, without Google, without the technology we have now. And I'm just grateful that she got it together later in life, kind of showed me that, and she always showed me that you can turn it around no matter what. But that is why at 16 I was on my own, and I was fortunate. Like, I got my GED. I left high school with like a 4.2 GPA, like over it. I went to 22 schools.
Really?
So I went to a lot of schools in 2 countries, traveled a lot, been to a lot of continents, and I had a very unconventional upbringing, but I'm grateful for that because it showed me that normal doesn't exist. It's really based on geography, and it taught me to think a lot more critically in a way that I probably wouldn't have if it had been conventional, so to speak. So I'm grateful for it.
That is amazing. So that made you who you are like today, because like your story, because you are an African American, it to me, because I don't see it a lot like where I live, but for you to take that leap of faith to go out and do what you're doing is just so amazing to me. And I just think every African American woman or family needs to see and needs to hear your story, that we do have the power to go out and purchase land and make lives for ourselves. Is that if that's what we choose to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. I'm not sure where are you based?
I am based in San Antonio, and okay. I'm in the city, so we don't see.
I had my honeymoon there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
that's where I am.
Like 2 conferences there last year. I love the Riverwalk. It has amazing vegan food. San Antonio is a vibe.
It is a vibe, but there's not a whole lot of African Americans here. Especially, we are definitely not living off the land, honey.
Yeah, no.
We're going to the nearest grocery store.
Yeah, well, it's also hot. Texas was
It
so
is hard.
hot.
But
That's
your
why I
story,
had to leave.
yeah, it's just so amazing and so impactful. So, like with you and your husband, because he's such a great impact and such a helpful partner,
Mhm.
are you the only one that's working? And does
No,
he
so
manage and all of that?
yeah, like I said, he owns a recording studio. He's owned it for
He's
15 years with his business
oh,
partner. He also is releasing a book later this month. He's always like touring. He's a voting member of the Grammy Society. It is very much like go, go, go in this house. He definitely has, I'll say he has sacrificed a
mm-hmm,
lot of his career
mm-hmm,
at this point to support me, because we also talk about these things. So my husband is white. He understands a little bit, like we talk about
mm-hmm,
like just socioeconomic realities,
mm-hmm,
realities that happen in society. And he knew that for me having children, if I decided to step aside and then try to go back into the workforce, it would have been a lot more difficult for me versus him when, if
mm-hmm.
ever he decides to go back in, he has the credentials. He's an Army veteran. During the
Oh,
pandemic, he also got his master's in music technology. We both
oh,
got we were in master's programs at the same time. And it just, he can always kind of go back. Not saying
mm-hmm,
like, oh, it's just super easy, but it's a different barrier versus me and most women. It's something like 1 in 4 women will leave the workforce within their first year of having a child. And I was somebody who, that's why I decided to work home and applied to so many jobs to do it, because I knew I wanted to nurse and I didn't want it to have to be either or. I'm a person who often wants to have my cake and eat it too. And I'm not
me
saying
too.
it's easy, but I'm saying that it's possible. And I'll also tie some of that to being, I am first generation Jamaican American on my father's side. So my mother, her family is from the South, my family, and I grew up with my like Jamaican family. So a lot of that too was going to Jamaica as a kid,
Mm-hmm,
often seeing the land, seeing food that's
mm-hmm,
growing, just understanding people who came here with one suitcase and
mm-hmm,
figured it out. And no, they weren't perfect, but it was always this idea that you really don't have an excuse. You were born
mm-hmm,
here, you have
mm-hmm,
papers, you have opportunity. And then, like I said, I lived in Ghana for a bit when I was in middle school, and just traveling and seeing the world and seeing different perspectives. I don't really allow myself to get to feel sorry for myself
mm-hmm,
very long. Not that I don't sometimes, but perspective is really huge on what you think you can do. And one more to your point, representation matters.
oh yeah.
Absolutely. And me getting my undergraduate degree in African American Studies from Temple, which was the first
Mm-hmm.
school to offer the doctorate in it, less than 1% of PhDs, Black women at that time, were doctors. And most of my professors were Black women doctors. So I 100% knew I could do it. I'm from Philly, which has a
Mm-hmm.
history and a legacy of so much greatness
Mm-hmm.
and Black greatness. So for me, it's not that fantastical. Yes, I don't see a lot of like Black women homesteaders, but I absolutely still see them on social media, because when you start to search for it, you realize
Mm-hmm.
we're everywhere.
And that's good to know. And so, like with you, based on what you've been through, so now how long have you been homesteading? Since 2021? How long have
Since
y'all?
2020, we tried our first garden. Even now, it's like our blackberries, there's beetles, there's pests. So this year, we've gotten really serious about it. We're in the build. So that's what a lot of our content is about. We have not reached the mountaintop, and this is
Mm-hmm.
how it is. What we have achieved, again, is making sure we have this land mortgage free, so that a lot of that monthly reoccurring expenses can go into building even more sovereignty, and then eventually buying more land. The goal is to buy acreage in almost every state.
Well, that's a huge goal. And so now that's where I want to lead. Mortgage free. Is your land currently mortgage free?
It is mortgage free. I do not, the bank does not have anything to do with my home. And that was huge. When we initially got it, the goal, like mortgage rates were like 2%, remember, at that time. And the goal was to get it livable and get the mortgage and pay my mother-in-law off that way. And as we were
Mm-hmm.
here and we understood like what the bank being involved involved in our home could do. I literally almost stumbled into my career based on what could pay me enough to do the goals that I wanted to do. And that's when I learned what an account executive was and applied. And then last year at my company was made President's Club, was the top salesperson by quota attainment out of the whole company, hitting 207% quota, when 4 years previous to that, I had no idea what an account executive was, even though I was an account manager. So let me be very clear. I've been in sales for a long time. I understood sales. I just didn't understand the software sales in that world. But I think like if you've been a teacher, if you're a communicator, if you are good with connecting people and understanding how to listen to what they have going on and strategize, then you could be great at it too. And a lot of people do come from other careers into sales later in their careers.
And so how hard was it for you to pay off your mother-in-law?
It was hard. It was hard, but I knew it was doable. So the difference is that I did work to capacity. I did end up going through burnout. However, it's a lot different when first of all, I'm a person who always loves commission. If you are going to do a 9 to 5, it needs to be commission. Commission is one of my favorite words. I don't know why people get scared of it or run from it, because the difference is the more effort you put in, the more revenue and money you can make from it. So like last year, it was a really great year. Things aligned. I got things into place with my comp plan, and I made a little over $450,000
in 1 year by yourself, your own salary.
Well, I had my salary plus my commission. So
That's
a lot of it was through
money.
commission. It's a lot.
Wow.
It's a lot.
So you do that.
I do it because once you understand this world, like it sounds like it's a lot, but for my company, I made them over 5 million. So
right.
the least
So they just gave you a taste of what you made for them.
You could compensate me. Yes, and a lot of it is again relaying that information, connecting the right people, connecting those dots, understanding how to really demonstrate the value. Anything that I did, it wasn't like, oh, you gave me this, I'm very grateful to it, but I gave you more value. And that is why you paid for it. And that is why I was compensated. And I'm a very big proponent in that people should understand their value whenever they go into a situation. And to be an employee usually means you make enough to pay yourself and pay your employer. The difference with sales and revenue departments is that you know exactly what you made your employer and they compensate you well for that. And my last company, in this company, just tech in general, you don't see a lot of women who look like me. And that's just the truth. And that's why I think it's very important as well to be vocal and show that this is a path, because most people don't know that you can be in tech sales, make more than a lot of doctors. So it's just not a path that's normally presented. Like I was pre-law. It's like you go lawyer, you become a doctor, and there's just so many other careers out there, especially entrepreneurship, and me as a solopreneur, that also is just as lucrative. And I think it's very important to make sure that that is like known.
So are you an employee or are you a contractor?
I'm an employee. I have benefits. I have PTO, unlimited. I am a W-2 employee. So last year I also paid like almost $100K in taxes. So that's real as well. But with Seed in Society, I'm also starting my own platform, but I am a W-2 employee.
And again, I want you, look, everybody, I want you to see this. My African-American female who is a homesteader, who also has a 9 to 5, she made $450,000 in her salary last year because she's learned how to play the game. So I'm telling you, we have to learn how to play the game, because that alone is amazing. Like you should be patting yourself on the back. You're like, okay, well, whatever. On to the next thing. But
it's funny because I watched one of your last episodes, and the guest you had on was talking about successful people never feel successful because they're already on to, and I was like, okay. You didn't say nothing but a word. That is just very true. I'm already like, that was great, but watch what I do next. So
you're right. You're on to the next thing. But you have to tell me Why is it so important for you to be mortgage free?
For me, as somebody who has been homeless, who has
Mm-hmm.
experienced the instability that comes with not having a home and being a parent, it's imperative for me to make sure my children don't go through that. So for us, we set up a trust. We are building micro apartments and tiny homes. Like, my children are technically homeowners before kindergarten. And when they get to a certain age, we're going to deed out certain acreage to them that nobody can kick them out, not even us. It is, I feel like your life changes, and it's a lot of stuff people take for granted, but your life changes when you have a home base, a home place, a homestead. That is what it is. And even just in the words of Bell Hooks with home place, and it just isn't, it's imperative because you go out into the world very sure about who you are because you know that you have a soft place to land. And I think that that's just important for people to do for their children. Like, we don't say none of that crap like, you're 18, you're going out, or you're paying rent here. Like, never. You are able to be here until you're 70 with your children and your kids. Of course, we want you to do stuff. It's not just sit on the couch and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the point. But the point is that you have a home and you have a very strong foundation so that you can move in the world knowing that. And it gives you a different level of confidence, and it gives you a different level just belief in yourself to know that you can go into any room and you belong there. And that is just something I don't know if you can hear in my voice, I feel very, very strongly about for my children and for people in general.
Makeda, we got to back up. You look, I got left back here because I don't want people to see the astonishment on my face. So I'm gonna act composed like I've heard this before, okay? But let me be transparent. I have never heard this before, so I gotta go back. So please forgive me. I need you to
Okay.
go back to where you talked about deeding for your children and building these tiny homes. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, so a really big financial tool, and people will say it derogatory, right? Like, oh, I'm not a trust fund baby. And you say it in a way where it's almost like this is something that is for the ultra wealthy or is not accessible to you. That's
Mm-hmm.
just not true. Like I said, last year I lost my mom, and going through probate was so heart-wrenching.
Oh.
Like, it was very difficult, and it's just basic estate planning. Knowing
Mm-hmm.
that, for example, if something happens to you, creditors can't come and take it from your children,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, making sure that you set that very basic foundation so that, again, I have young children, having the life insurance go to the trust, because if you deed it to your children, they can't access it until they're 18. So how can someone take care of them? Making
Mm-hmm.
sure you have very robust policies when you're young, like a few million. It is not that expensive in the
Mm-hmm.
scheme of things, that if the ultimate tragedy happened to you, can the people who are supposed to take care of your children actually take care of them, and in a legal, responsible way? Not just, oh, I have access to this money. No, you have a legal obligation to use it to take care of them, to take care of their schooling, and to take care of their home, because this
Mm-hmm.
belongs to them. It doesn't belong to you. And that's where just having this like legal structure in place
Mm-hmm.
can change things. And honestly, for a lot of people, it's like there's no excuse anymore. We live in the age of internet and AI
Mm-hmm.
and access. So if you are serious about it, you do the research to do it. And then again, for our kids, it's like I said, it's always about planning. Yes, I have this house mortgage free, and I plan on being here for another 60 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are my children going to do? Because I don't expect them to live in the house with me forever. I'd deal with it. Like, I'd love it. But they're going to want to grow up. They're going to want to be free. What can we
Mm-hmm.
do to facilitate that? And that's where building the tiny homes and spreading out and having land comes into play, because now you're creating a space for them to grow and thrive, but still be around. And maybe they'll want to go to the city. Like, maybe they'll
Mm-hmm.
go away to college or travel the
Mm-hmm.
world. But the point is
Mm-hmm.
that they have a home.
Ah, that is so amazing. So have you all started on the tiny homes yet? Or are you gonna wait until they get a little older? builder.
No, so we actually have the people coming to clear out the wood, like some of the spaces, because in the meantime, we're going to make them hip camps and Airbnbs. So these are already income. The point is to have them being income producing properties, not just, hey, here goes a home that sits there and like does nothing. When you buy land, there's so many ways to make it profitable or to turn it into income generating. And that's why I started Seed in Society, honestly, because like I said, we're in the build and I'm doing all this research. And it's like, I get that that can be daunting and overwhelming. Everyone doesn't have research degrees. They don't do research for fun. Like I'll sit there and do it for 20 hours. And that's where, as I'm building, as I'm finding tools, as I'm finding different people and connections, like you said, how did you learn about homesteading? I have an amazing community that I go to that these people have very robust YouTubes, like, 600,000 followers on Instagram. They have been doing this for a long time and they love to share this information. How do I help get people in front of them as well? And that is what Seed in Society is. It's a connector's space. It is a way to help people understand how did I do this? Because while I don't necessarily think it's anything super spectacular or out of the ordinary, I am understanding as I talk to people that it's not that normal. It's like, hey, I'm here to help. Like, ask me. I will talk about it all the time because I think it's super accessible and I am not a gatekeeper. I am a gate opener. Like I am, like I said, a connector. How can I show anyone how to do this if it's what they want to do?
You know what? You said something and I can't get it off of my mind. So I'm like, well, maybe somebody else is thinking this too, but you kind of like glossed over this. But there was a reason why you say you didn't want the bank to have anything to do with your mortgage. What made you decide that you didn't want the bank to have anything to do with it?
Because if you understand a mortgage, which is usually people get comfortable with this 30-year idea, like even when we were going to get the mortgage for this home, the goal was to pay it off in 5 years or less. That was always the plan because life happens and life can happen in a great way. I don't like to say like life happens and people instantly think of the negative of that. Like, no, life is always happening.
Right.
But that is where, like, even just having stuff like short-term disability and long-term disability and getting those plans, because if you can't work for some reason or you get laid off 6 months or less, you can't pay. Like, everyone knows what a foreclosure is, but a lot of people like to think it can't happen to them. Well, I grew up in 2008. I saw my pop's house get foreclosed on. I understood, as this was one of the hardest working people I've ever seen. First one to get up, last person to go to sleep. And if you get laid off or your income goes away, you think that you own this home. And if you're lucky, you can do a short sell. You can try to recoup some of the equity you put in it. So I always recommend people at least own their home, even with a mortgage over rent. Because rent, 60 days in Philly, 90 days, you could be paying for it for 10 years. You don't own it. You're paying someone else's mortgage. So at least if you have a mortgage, there's some more optionality if that does occur. But if you don't have a mortgage and you own your home outright, you could have 6-7 months where you lost a job, especially if you make sure you prioritize your emergency fund. Because even if you have like credit cards or something, most states, not all, and do not take this as financial advice, I am not a financial giver. My understanding is that they cannot take the home that you live in. But if you own your home, you have leverage. That is where you can be like, hey, maybe I don't want to take this job. I want to wait a little bit longer and take one that's more aligned. I want to spend a few months and build my own business. I want to be here with my grandkids or my young kids, or someone gets sick and I don't have to be in a chokehold to this position. That is what it's about. Building some form of sovereignty, building some form of true independence where you have choices and you're not now having this albatross around your neck of, I got to pay my mortgage and I'm spending this money to keep up with the Joneses, and because I can get a mortgage for $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and that's what I make $15,000. Like, sure, let me go and get this huge home and then have to stay in that grind for the next 30 years. Because also also a lot of your mortgage is interest.
A whole lot of your mortgage is interest. And then several years ago, someone taught me, like, if you look at the beginning of the word mortgage, it says morgue. 30 years. That's like this.
Essentially.
It is. It's
Essentially.
like, right. And so if we have someone watching and they are so fascinated about your story and they want to take a leap of faith and try to do what you're doing, can you give them some words of wisdom?
Absolutely. I again, what I am doing is not that unique. It's probably a little bit more vocal, or you're seeing it, but it's not unheard of. Let me put it that way. Like, I am not the first person doing it. I would say check out seedandsociety.com. I'm always adding more information. I'm releasing the connectors market soon, which is literally these premium PDFs that explain like exactly which tools I'm using, why I use it, what it does for us. We're expanding the YouTube, so we actually are showing you the build, showing you how we design our garden, showing you what we're putting up. Like, I have like 3 tons of compost coming this weekend. It is very much in real time. So if this is something you're looking at and it's like, hey, I want to get from here to there, how do I take my income that I get every 2 weeks and turn it into a mortgage-free life? What steps would I even take? That is exactly what I'm putting out there and what I'm trying to show what I did. And again, what I did is probably not what everyone's going to do, but I also connect you to other people who are doing it, other people who are growing their food, other people that are using digital tools and passive income. And I'm just saying that it is possible. If I could do it, again, someone who's been on their own since 16, anyone can really do it.
I'm like, with your story, you got your GED and now look at you. You just like show people that regardless of what happens in your life, if you really want to do something, you'll do it. It's just you have to want to do it. And then you glossed over something else that's very, very important.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how you said it, but I just want you to touch on that a little bit and then I'll release you. But
Okay.
you talked about how people can turn like their 9 to 5 into like a mortgage-free life. You said something on that. Can you talk about that just for a few?
Yeah, I think that it comes down to having the idea. Ideas are so important. That's why podcasts are important. That's why tools like YouTube are important, because once you are exposed to an idea, it grows. It grows like a plant. It grows like anything that takes root. And if you are now looking at your income as, how can I turn this into a way to need to depend on this income less, you're not going to go get that designer bag. You're not buying those shoes that do not feed you, that do not give you generational wealth. You're like, I drive an old car, like a 2014 car with 100,000 miles on it, right? But it is paid off. I do not have a car note. I actually own the car, because how many people are afraid to get repoed but feel like they have to look rich versus actually being rich? And when you have that shift, I'm not telling you not to get your latte every day or your smoothie or your creature comforts, but also, is this actually making you wealthier and allowing you to opt out sooner? Or are you living your life with the idea that you won't retire until 65 or 70 if you're still here because you're so stressed trying to make it to that timeline, right? Like, life is not promised. Tomorrow is never promised. Are you actually doing things that make you feel good or make it look like you feel good? And I think the real unlock there is that this is about actuality, not aesthetics. I don't need it to look good. I need it to be good. I don't need to look rich. I need to be rich. I don't need, and I think what really helped me beforehand is I deleted all my social media in 2021 permanently. I'm literally starting over from scratch because I got to the point where I had my daughter and I'm like trying to take a picture, but we're in construction mode here. Like, I literally turned my porch into a 700 square foot living room that is beautiful now. But as you're in construction, you're like, oh, I don't want that to be in the back of the picture. And oh, how can I do? And it was just like, hold up. This is like, you're losing the actual focus. focus. Why do I care? Like, if I delete this tomorrow, how many people are going to actually text me? And those are the people I still speak with. And those are the people who don't care. Like Dr. Seuss said, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And I've literally put that in my daughter's head so consistently, because if you are trying to grow and people genuinely want you to grow and they genuinely support you, they do not care what is on your feet. They don't care what designer you have. They don't care if your hair is laid. They just care that you actually are healthy and happy and can take care of business. And getting locked into that is when your life changes. It's when it changes. I just don't have time for the foolishness.
Well, my husband, if he was here, he would tell you it take a lot to get me speechless, but that was good. Like, you almost got me speechless. Like, that was powerful. And I hope and pray
Thank
that
you.
someone listening, that they're going to hear what you say and they're going to take a second look at their lives and turn their 9-to-5s into living a life to where they don't have to depend on that 9-to-5. Use it for their goodness and not just to stay on the treadmill of getting more and getting more.
Exactly, because it'll never be enough.
No,
It'll
are
never be
satisfied.
enough if you're not doing what you truly want to do. If you have to make those trade-offs to get up and go to that job, and I know how that feels. I know what like, I'm not saying it like, oh, I've completely arrived at anywhere. I know how it feels to know you got to take care of your kids, and you have to take care of your home, and you have to take care of yourself, because this world will not take care of you. It will not give you handouts. It will not shelter you. Like, look at the homeless problem that we have. Look at the problem that we have when shelves go empty, and how many people are at food banks, and now food banks are being defunded. But a seed literally costs 25 cents. You can buy a pack of seeds for $1. And even on your kitchen counter can start with an arrow garden or grow your own herbs and start to reclaim some of your sovereignty. You can grow tomatoes in a bucket on your balcony, on your porch. Like, it does not take 10 acres or a whole lot of space. I know people, and I implore you to go look up homesteading. Go look at the amazing people who are gardening in small spaces, small places, and taking back some of their paycheck, because every dollar you save is a dollar you can spend towards funding your freedom. And make sure you pay yourself first. Before you pay creditors, before you pay anybody else, pay yourself first in your emergency fund. Every check I get, it's at least 10%. I pay myself first before anybody else. And when you start to pay yourself, you realize, oh, I got money.
Nice. A nice chunk of money. Yes. Pay yourself first so you won't be broke.
No, you pay yourself first, and then you pay it, and then you use that for asset, because money is a tool. Money is the gateway to actual ownership. And when you're talking about, like, people, I know people talk about stocks, they talk about bonds, their 401k, set it and forget it. When you own a patch of land, you can really set it and forget it. Even if you buy a half acre or an acre, because anything goes down, you could put a tent there, you can put a school bus there, a schoolie, you could put an RV there. And anytime you can sit somewhere and feel safe, you can get yourself back together. You can make that money and build. But when you got to look over your shoulder and you don't know if you're safe or where you can get your next meal from, it is so much harder to rebuild from that. You almost can't. So yeah, that is it. That's just
that was good. And please tell them, if anyone wants to reach out to you or find you, can you please give us your contact information?
Absolutely. You can always message me at hello@Seed and Society. You can go to seedandsociety.com. You can subscribe to my newsletter, the Seed and Society newsletter. You can always reach out. I'm always willing to talk. I do have strategy sessions as well. If you want to sit there and really look at what your life is, how to take your specific set of circumstances, your finances, where you're trying to go, and have strategy to actually implement this in the next 12, 18, 24 months, 30 days even. It really only takes a year to completely change your life, and sometimes even less. And we can talk about different forms of passive income, what you can do. But yeah, always reach out. I have a lot of, and I also have my podcast, the Seed and Society podcast. So we talk talk about this. We bring on people as well. And there's a lot of resources out there. And all I do on my platform is share other resources and other people who are thinking like this, doing this, building. So it's not just me. It is a movement. There is a lot of people out there. You are not alone, and it is possible for you.
You are a breath of fresh air. I just want to say to you, this is for the listeners, but it has truly been such a blessing to me. I just want to thank you so much for making the time to be here. This was very, very moving. And
Thank
Makeda,
you.
it has, and I look forward to having you again, back here again, 2025.
Absolutely. And you can always reach out to me as well.
Don't you worry. I got your contact information.
Yeah.
Okay, well, again, thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed our content, please share this with someone. I know that it can change your life. If you're on YouTube, like it and subscribe to our channel. We're always here bringing you more innovative ideas on how to make your money work for you. So again, thank you for joining us. And Makeda, thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.